On today's episode, I'm talking about the next stage to goal planning, one of the really important points that's easily missed.
This is how legends are made.
Hi there everyone, and thanks for joining me on today's episode. First off, apologies for the previous episode and the kind of the quality of the audio, the visual being so shit. I'm not too sure what really happened, and I could blame loads of other things, but I'll just blame myself because that's easiest. Just didn't set up correctly, and if you got anything from it, it's fantastic. Now, it is one of those things where I take something from this, I think it's worth sharing. So with the apology in place, I could not have chosen to upload it. I could have said, forget about it, let's not do an episode, let's kind of refilm it for another time. But I think it's also important to recognize that sometimes things don't work out, and I'm not in any way looking to kind of gloss over my own failures or problems. In fact, I'm more willing to share them with you. And yesterday didn't work out. I would have not posted it, but the quality of the actual content itself was really, really good. The actual kind of goal setting, getting specific, activating the mindset as well as the emotions was really, really pertinent, particularly this time of year. So I kept it for the content, but also because it did go wrong. I didn't want it to kind of give ever the impression that I don't make mistakes or if things don't work out. And I think it's important to recognize that. But it's also important to recognize that it's how we come back, how we handle those challenges, which is really the difference. I remember once when I was working way back when as a buyer, this is like 25 years ago, and we had a problem. Something hadn't come in, supplier had let us down. So I called them up and he said, and he completely owned the problem, their fault, and he shipped it that day, came I think maybe that afternoon or the next day. But the thing that I loved the most was that it was literally owning the issue and resolving it straight away. It's not that life won't throw us problems, it's how we resolve them, how we bounce back from them is the key. I mean, I was very understanding, things happen, it's a human environment, things can go wrong. But recognizing that we can actually bounce back from it and resolve it, that's the key. And in fact, I actually had greater admiration for him than anything else he'd done previously. He'd been a fantastic supplier, but it was that resolution, not turning it into a problem and just dealing with it, which made the difference. And so, like yesterday's video, accepting it, putting it out there, and today with an apology for the quality, but not the content, still acknowledges that I can improve. But in today's episode, I wanted to really kind of add on to what I was talking about yesterday regarding goals. And this is an important part, which I don't think, I could be wrong here, that enough people talk about, particularly in people in my profession or the coaches or other people who are looking to help in some way. And we spoke about goals, clearly activating the brain with the kind of what you wanted to see happen, and then the mindset, the emotions of what you're going to feel like when you achieve those things. So really the kind of the engine fuel that's going to get you there. And that's all fantastic and that's all positive, or optimistic at least. But the real part of optimism is also recognizing the obstacles in the way. I'm not looking to educate you into the idea that goal setting is simply to ignore problems. It's actually saying which is what we want to see happen, the outcome. So the bigger picture, which is really, really important when you're particularly dealing with any negotiation, being it personal or on yourself or anyone else, seeing the bigger end goal and then working your way through that. But it's also recognizing where the challenges are. So if I was adding anything onto what I discussed yesterday, it's to look at the challenges, the obstacles in the way. And it's in a similar vein that I was talking about goals, is that we can often think these challenges are greater and bigger than possibly they really are. We have them really whipped up on our head in the same way we have these kind of goals on our head. They seem large and kind of big to achieve, but we can do that with challenges as well. So today, do kind of the opposite. If it's one goal, just list that single down. If there's 2 or 3 goals and go through each one. So spend a few minutes and actually just write down what the obstacles are to achieving that goal. What problems do you need to resolve? Sometimes just engaging with a problem can create a solution. In the same way setting up a goal can create an answer. Go through that process and see what's blocking the goal. was going to say blocking you, but more what's blocking the goal. As you go through the list, I'd like you to notice which ones are you and which ones are not you, which ones are kind of out of your control. And I think it's important to go through that list, because the next stage, and hopefully I'm not rushing you through this because you can return to the video, is then to look at the list and saying, what of these things, obstacles, am I in control of, and which ones are out of my control? I don't know what your list will look like, but you're going to have 2 columns of some length, and ideally it's going to have ones where you have control, things that you can determine. Because the column that says things that you can't control, outside of your control, circumstances, people, whatever it may be, those can be put to one side. We focus on only what we can control. If we focus on what we can't control, well, that doesn't take us towards our goal. So I want you to put aside what you can't control and focus solely on what you can. There's another piece of work that'll be super useful to go through when it comes to those things we believe are out of our control. But for now, having done the goals, setting up the motivation, the activation, go through the next process of setting up the obstacles, understand the problems in the way to get there. In the same way we activate our brain towards the goal, we can activate our solutions by listing down what the obstacles are. So do that today for me, and I think you'll find that'll be a really useful bolt-on to achieving the goal you're after, or the goals you're after, whatever they may be in whatever form. So take that with you today, and on my next episode I'll try and explore a bit further the idea about what we do with things we think are out of our control. There's a refinement on there which might be quite useful, so join me for that if you can. And as ever, please feedback, any questions, comments, criticisms. If you don't like the videos, or you want to see more of, you want to see less of, please let me know about them. And if you do have a burning issue, or particular thing you're struggling with, you've kind of hit a brick wall and don't know what to do, DM me, message me, or drop a comment and let me know, and I can do my best to reply to every single one of you. And maybe there's a problem you're facing which actually is more universal. Maybe other people will benefit from a solution. So you never know when your message might be useful for other people. So please do drop me a comment, drop me a message. I love to hear from you. Other than that, have a fantastic day wherever you are, and I'll catch you next time.
This is how legends are made.